Hi everyone. Hi Martin. Hi
Hello.
Rafael.
Hi. Hello.
How's your Sunday coming along?
It's been good.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's good too. Mine's good. We
Nice.
went to church. I went to church.
Oh
So
yeah. I also went to church.
good. So you went to church quite early.
Yeah, at 9 a.m.
Okay. Okay, that's good. So let's start off today's class. A few questions. So how do we, because we started off with JavaScript. So who can remind me 3 ways we can add JavaScript to our files?
Uh, HTML.
Yes, through by adding the script tag on the HTML. That's good, Martin.
Mm.
How else?
I think it was linking linking the JavaScript file to the HTML.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, Rafael. So we link the JavaScript file using the script tag, and we add the src, which will be the source, the name of the file, and add that to our HTML. That's good. What was the last one? I know this might be a
There
bit
was one with
difficult
the
to
browser.
remember. Yeah, good. We can write it. We can write JavaScript directly on the browser by right-clicking and going to the inspect, and then choosing console, where we add JavaScript on that section of the console. That's good. I see you guys remember. I see you guys are concentrating, and I love that. That's good. I sent the HTML and CSS notes on the WhatsApp group. Martin, did you get some time to go through that?
Oh, I started looking through them. I haven't finished them.
That's good. That's good. So I'd love it if you finish going through it. Yes,
All right.
Rafa?
My mom didn't tell me that she got sent something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I sent quite a bit of stuff. So I resent, especially for Martin, some of the stuff we had worked on in the previous class. I also sent a link to the Discord project that you were working on. I sent that link so you can get access to the code we did in class. And I'd like it if you would copy it, don't change it, don't change the code, but just copy that code and add it to your repo and then make some improvements. In a few, like in a 2 weeks, I'd like to see what you come up with on the Discord. Give enough time to try and make improvements. You can even change it, like just add stuff to it. So always keep just keep checking on WhatsApp. I'll try to be as regular as possible, maybe on Mondays and Wednesdays. So that would be Tuesday for you, and Thursday. Look out for stuff that I might post on WhatsApp, okay?
All right.
Yeah. So for today, we'll continue off with JavaScript. Let me see. What screen should I share? Okay. So what is okay? Hmm. So today we will start off by learning some very key concepts in JavaScript and programming as a whole. This is a concept that you would find anytime, anywhere you write, anytime you're programming anything. This is something that you will find, and this is very important, and I'd like us to understand this. So yesterday we understood what JavaScript is. We understood where we can use JavaScript, and we tried to see how we can add JavaScript or how we can start off writing JavaScript code. So one of the most important things about writing code is that code is written in a specific way, and that way is universal. Everyone writes code that way. And that's why I'm saying there's some concepts that you would see in JavaScript, which you might see in a coding language, say like Python or C or Java. And there's something that people confuse quite a lot. Is a language known as JavaScript, and there's another language known as Java. So those are two different programming languages and are used for quite different tasks. So for us, we are working with JavaScript, and there's totally no relationship between JavaScript and Java. But there's a story around it. It's like the guys who created JavaScript kind of stole the name Java. Just a weird story, but the person who created JavaScript wanted it to be popular. And during that time, which was around 1995, around there, Java was very popular. In the programming language Java. So like he was like, I need people to, kind of use this language. So he created the name JavaScript. Initially, it was known as ECMAScript, but he changed it to JavaScript. And many people till today keep confusing JavaScript and Java. I need to repeat that again. Java is a programming language all by itself. JavaScript is a different programming language. We are working on JavaScript, and JavaScript most of the time is used on web, creating web applications. You might use Java for so many other things. Enterprise, that means like business side of things. So creating applications for, let's say, banks, creating games, creating different applications. We can use that with JavaScript, but JavaScript more or less is most commonly used when creating web applications. Okay. But okay. So one of the most important concepts that we have is a variable. So variables are items, or let me call them, as I've written here, they're named storage. So remember initially when we started class, we talked of memory. We talked of the computer having memory. We talked of the random access memory. We talked of the read-only memory. So when you're programming, you allocate a portion of the memory to your code. So you store something, you store a value, which we will understand what values are. So you store the value in a named storage location. So you set aside a part of memory. Say maybe your laptop has how much? Let me see. Let's say you have let's just say you allocated 10 gig of storage. So you'd say, let me allocate 5 MB of this storage to this value. So how is it possible to do that? You create something known as a variable. So a variable is a container that contains data. So that data is stored in the memory location. I can give you an example. I like using this example, which is easy, was even easier for me to understand. So you see, when you have a box, say you have like your garage. So let's say you have a garage and you store boxes with stuff. So let's say you have you just store random stuff in the garage. So that would be like the entire memory of your computer. So those boxes might have stickers. So maybe you'd say this is cutlery, then you say this is clothes, stuff like that. But now in this case, we find that we might have to change this stuff, or sometimes you always keep coming into the garage and picking stuff. So what do? We label our boxes. So a variable would be that box, and the label would be the name we give to the variable, and whatever is inside the box is the value we give to the variable. So or you can say like just buckets, and that bucket is labeled. So maybe this bucket has paint, bucket has water. So if you label the bucket, that bucket becomes a variable, and whatever is inside becomes the value of the variable. So in JavaScript, we have a way in which we declare a variable. So declaring a variable means that we are now creating that box. We are now coming up with a box. And then later on, once you declare the variable, you'll now put stuff inside the box. So when you're creating a box, what do? You come up with a box and the label of the box. And then once you do that, you add some value into that. So today we're going to start off. We're still going to continue with our Replit file. And we will now try and create a variable. There's something that's keeping my mind. So I haven't opened Replit. And as I open this, let me, on a practical way, how variables can be used is that, let's say you have an app, a chat app or a gaming app. When you register, you always ask for your username, your age, are you male or female? So any data that you give, like say your username. So let's say I give my username as S. So the variable in this case would be the username and the value would be S. So variables are very important. Anytime you're creating anything, there's nothing you can create if you do not use variables. So variables are very important. Say in a gaming app, maybe even when you're creating maybe a shopping app or anything I can think of that we create, like applications, we always have to use variables. So where are my repos? Where are my repos? Where are they? Here they are. Here. What did we work on yesterday? What did we work on? This. So this is not first class, but let's assume this is first class of JavaScript. Loading. Great. So remember we said we are going to be working with external JavaScript files. So today we're going to start off with our script.js. So anytime you're writing your JavaScript, I'd recommend you to link the JavaScript. So here we would say script src equals to script.js. Script.js is this file, and this is the file we will be working with. Okay. So how do we need to nope. So, and as you continue, I'll explain to you why I am using these two forward slashes. So this is a comment, which would mean that this, whatever I'm writing, will not be executed. Declare a variable. Okay. So how do we declare a variable? So we use the first keyword I will introduce you to is let. So let says it's a keyword that is used to declare a variable. So maybe we will declare a variable by saying let message. So now what have we done? We have created a box and labeled it message. So once we do that, we would now put the content or insert whatever value we would want to message. So we would say message equals to supposed to be a single. Yeah, I need to look wrong. So message equal to hello. Okay. So now we have created our box let message. So that's the variable. We've put hello as the content of our box. So now what we want to do, remember last time we just alerted the word hello. So now we want to see if we would alert message. Let's see what would happen if I'd alert message. And always remember, sometimes I forget to do this because it's not, you don't have to do this all the time, but always end your statements with a semicolon. So now we have declared a variable message, added a value to message, which is hello, and we want to see whether we can print out or alert, not necessarily print out, but alert message. So do that. So I would run this. And you see now we get, instead of the word message, which is the variable, we get the content of the variable, which would be hello. So that is a simple explanation of what a variable is and the values that we put into a variable. So we can have different ways we can use variables, and we will see them as time goes by. So we also have in JavaScript, there are some recommendations, actually not recommendations, but rules you need to follow when writing variables. So the first rule is that we can have, you cannot start a variable name with a number. So maybe let's say you cannot write maybe 2 messages or something like that. You cannot like say something like this, 2 messages. And then maybe you say that this should be something like that. Yeah, hellos. So when you type out something like this, I think let's run it and see what is going to happen. Let's try and run this. So we're expecting like an alert, but it didn't even work. So let's go and check our console. What does our console tell us? Syntax error, invalid unexpected token. So where is the unexpected token? At the name of the file at line 6. So let's try and look at line 6. Line 6. So line 6 is the problem. Why? Because we started our variable name with a number. So we cannot start variable names with a number. Yeah. Something else is that we cannot use, the only two symbols that we can use would be a $sign or an underscore. So we can now, if I try to do this, this would work. There won't be any error. So you see the first code ran and everything is okay. So mine is working. But let's say I add something like say exclamation mark. Let's see if this would work. So if I add another symbol apart from a $sign and the next underscore, we still get an error. So the only symbols allowed when writing variable names are $sign and underscore. However, you can have a number, but it should not start. It should not be at the beginning. Say maybe I can add this number, and I believe this should work. You won't get an error. Everything would work perfectly. Everything is okay. If you stay down here, we don't have an error. So you can have a number when writing your variable, but the number should not be at the beginning. You can have the symbol, the $sign or underscore at the beginning, but not a number. So those I have mentioned 3 rules now. So you cannot start with a number. You can have either a $sign or an underscore as the only symbols. You cannot have any symbols for a variable apart from the $sign or the underscore. You can have a number, but the number should be in the middle, not at the beginning of the variable name. So maybe another way of writing. Sometimes you might have a variable, and that variable would have multiple names. And something as a good programmer, and this is something that sometimes tends to be a bit challenging, especially when you're writing code really fast, is coming up with descriptive variable names. So what do I mean by descriptive variable names? Sometimes I might write code and say we're working together. We're like Martin, Raphael, and I. We are writing a program. Maybe we're creating a game. So I need to give variables that all of us understand. So let's say I have a variable like username. You see, we all know what username means, right? We all know what username means. We all know what something like,
Yeah.
we all know, but what if I write something like, so let me see, what if I write something like what? Something like name 1. Would you know what that means? Like you'd be like, what name? Is it first name or is it the second name? Or maybe I write something like what something like maybe something like, sometimes maybe I'm like, I just want to say this XXX. You're like, what does she really mean? You see? But we need to have very descriptive names. So maybe I write, or I might write something like this. It will come up in a second. Sorry about the screen not showing up. Yeah. If I write this, what does it mean? Second name.
Second name?
Yeah, but I might have meant maybe like time, you see? So the best way to do would be, instead of writing that, would be to write second name. That way no one would confuse it, right?
Yeah.
No one would confuse what I'm writing. So always make sure that your variable names are very descriptive. And then something else you should have noticed that if I have 2 words, I capitalize the second word. So I have second name where N is capital. So this is a type of, it's a way of writing variables, which is known as camel case. So camel case is such that you capitalize the second word. There's another way, like in other programming languages, and JavaScript accepts this as well, but you won't find it a lot. This is known as snake case, where now you separate the two words with an underscore. This is known as snake case, and might be used quite a lot, maybe in Python or other languages, but JavaScript recommends that you use camel case. You'll see a lot of this in JavaScript. And I recommend that you start writing your variable names with camel case. So these are some of the rules that with time, you might forget one or two of them, but with time, you need to understand how they work. You need to follow those practices when creating your variable names. There are also some other keywords which I will see as we go by. So one of the most important is the let. We have something known as a const keyword. This means that you're creating a constant variable. So as I mentioned, and we can look at it right now. Let's do this. So let's say, what did we say? The first thing we said is that we can as well, sometimes what happens is sometimes programmers are kind of lazy. So you can declare the variable name and then assign the value while still there. You do not have to like declare it, then the next line is where you can choose to do this, and that would work. So I have created a variable with the value x. So my box of username has s. So sometimes you might find that, okay, S decides to change her name. So what happens is now the variable changes. Sorry. So now we say username becomes, so S said, no, I don't want to use S anymore. It's boring. So let me just use my name. Okay. So S changes her name to Esther. So let's see. So when we alert username, let me comment this one. I don't know. So when we alert username, we expect Esther. Why? Because with JavaScript, we can change whatever content is inside our box. If, for instance, okay, I need to so we can change this, but sometimes you might forget, and then that you cannot use the keyword let more than once. So this should give us an error. So let's see. So you cannot declare a variable twice. Oops, sorry. So you see what error? It says, you see, even actually explains the error. It says identifier username has already been declared. So we only declare a variable once. We can only declare a variable once. Once you declare a variable using the let keyword, you now do not need to use let again. So what you do is that you just give the name of the variable and assign a new value. However, there's another keyword known as const. So what const does, say maybe we want to have something like user name, maybe let's just use, and notice I'm using capital letters, which many times is used, but you don't have to. And then I say, okay, since we said we can assign, we can reassign the values of a variable. and change the contents of our box, which in this case, the box is the variable. Let's try and see if we can change this. We can change the username from S to something else. Let's see. Username should be in all caps. What name? Short name. What name? Say clear something. Clear 001. Let's say wonder. So we expect. I don't want to alert this. This two might conflict. Let me comment this. And then alert. Alert username. Username. So we want to alert this. So let's see whether we can do what we just did with the let keyword. Have an error. So what does the error tell us? The error tells us assignment to constant variable. So this is the error, assignment to constant variable. So what does that mean? When you have a const keyword, whatever you just entered as the name of the variable cannot be changed. So let's see, because we've not used the const keyword again. Let's see whether when we run this now, it would work. So now this works. So okay. Yeah. So the name was S. I was a bit okay. Let's change this so that it stops being a bit confusing. Because we might be alerting whatever is at the top here. So let's change this. Let's give this another name. Let's give it player 01 player 001. And then we can alert this now. So player 001 has appeared as an alert. Okay, so today we have learned the let, the const. We have learned how to write variables. Any questions so far?
Nope.
Sorry?
Oh, no, I understand.
I have a question or an issue. Whenever I put the first part in, let message equals hello, it didn't work. And whenever I did let username equal s, username equals Esther, it didn't work either.
Okay, so
wait,
let's
actually,
see.
let me try something real quick.
Okay.
It might be because I didn't put quotation marks. What? Okay.
It works now?
Yeah, I forgot to put quotation marks.
Okay, no problem. So we have now understood how variables work. So as you can see now, back to the quotation marks, we need to understand why are we using quotation marks? And we are using quotation marks because this is a data type of type string. A string would be like a word or text. So whenever you have like a word that you need to be interpreted as text, we use quotation marks. And that brings us to our next topic, which would be data types. Something. Oh, sorry, Rafael, I didn't see your chat, but I hope right now you're okay.
I'm good. I'm just trying to figure out what you did for the const.
The const? Okay, just give me a second. My thing is not working. Why isn't it working? Yeah, it's okay. So let's go back to the const. So what did we say? Did you understand? Did you know? Did you get the difference between let and const?
No, I was trying to fix my problem.
Okay, so let me repeat that again. So when you have let, you see what we did with the username s, and then with let, it makes it possible for you to change the value that you put into the username. So now I'm able, it makes it possible for me to use s star instead of s because I use the let keyword. However, if I use the const keyword, so I said const username is equals to player001. And remember, I said we can always declare and assign the value on one line with JavaScript. So say I'm like, okay, I need to change this username. I want to say username equals to something like, say like Raphael. Let's say the username should be Raphael. So I expect that when I alert this, when I run this code, I expect to have Raphael, right? Because we're changing the value of username. So let's see what happens if I run this. It's like we get an error or something. So what does our error tell us? Our error says assignment can't variable, and this is on line 11. So I go to line 11 and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to assign the value Raphael to a variable that is constant. So when I use the const keyword, it means that any value I give the variable the first time, I cannot change that at all. It remains that way, which is quite different from the let keyword. You get that?
Let can be like bended to like the last one.
Yes.
And const has to be the first one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the difference. And we will find that we use let quite a lot, but there's some instances where you need to use const. And with time, you'll get to understand, as you write your code, as you understand the logic of your code, you'd find that, okay, I don't want this variable to change. So you find that you need to use the const. But anytime you need your variable to change, you'd use the let keyword. There's also a keyword that you'd find in old code that is a bit old, which is known as the var. It looks like this. So this also declares a variable name, but JavaScript has changed from using var to using let, but you might find this quite a lot. So anytime you see var, it's almost the function is almost similar to using let. And this is you'll see it quite a lot in code people have written. You'll see var. So So that is it for variables, and we work on variables quite a lot. So much variables, them better. So we have data types. So when I said value, adding a value to a variable meant that I was adding some type of data. So when I added the name, that was a type of data. And programming languages accept different types of data. And you need to understand what kind of data your programming language understands or works with. So JavaScript works with 8. These are the basic data types in JavaScript. We have more, but the most common are 8. So we have a number. So numbers would be like if you have age, maybe you'd say age, the value, a variable of age, say equals 14. Or number as well would accept floating point. So floating point means decimal. So maybe you'd be like, okay, so this is like 1.5 pounds or 10.5 pounds. So that would be number. That would be a data type of number in JavaScript. So when you see anytime you hear floating points, that means decimal. And we have something known as big int. Big int is a really huge number, maybe like billion, gazillion, trillion, like big numbers. That is big int or big integer. Then we have string. String refers to characters that might be in numbers, but now in this case, they are enclosed in quotation marks. So when you have number, you're able to perform mathematical operations, which we will see practically. So maybe if you have a value of 1 and 3 without quotation marks, you can say 1 plus 3 and get 4. However, when 1 and 3 are in quotation marks, you cannot perform any mathematical operation on them. This would now be interpreted as string data types. They'd be like, okay, this is just part of a sentence or something. So that's the difference between number and string. And string is also used when you're writing like words, sentences. So those are strings. Another type of data type, which I think, Raphael, you have, before the undefined, we have the Boolean data type. So sometimes in programming, and even most of the times, the computer always interprets something as a 0 or a 1. So 0 would, in this case, mean false, 1 would mean true. So if something is true, there's a value, you might say like this variable should mean true. So we will always look at terminology known as truthy. As we continue, we'll see true and false being used in different scenarios. And we have undefined. Undefined means just what it is, undefined. So this is maybe a variable that we haven't assigned a value to. So that variable is not defined. And now you will get an output of undefined whenever you have a variable. And for example, when you gave the value of Esther without quotation marks, the computer interpreted the word Esther as a variable, but not a string. That's why it was telling you undefined, because Esther was not, you had not defined that variable at all. So it was like, I haven't come across a variable with the name Esther. Then we have symbol. This would be just like symbols, mathematical symbols, tiny symbols, something like that. Then we have another type of data known as objects. So we create objects, and if time allows, we will understand how to work with objects in JavaScript, and that is known as object-oriented programming, if time will allow. So those are the types of data. I need us to understand a few of them. I need us to start off with the undefined. I need to make it clear practically how undefined comes out. So, oops. So let's look at, let's delete this. So we can have a value, say age. And then let's try and alert age and see. Okay, there's something else I need us to learn. Another function, instead of alerting, we can actually do something known as console dot log. So when we do console.log, we would see our output on the console. So if I run this, I need to see an output. So what does the output say? Undefined. Why? Because I did not give a value to age. So maybe let's say age equals 12. Okay. So now let me run this again. And when my console.log this, I go to the console and it logs 12. So in this case, 12 is a number. How would I know that 12 is a number? We have a function that is known as type of. So I can console.log that. And then let's copy this. We can also say, let's print out or console.log what type of data age is. Okay, type of age, say age. So I can run this. And when we look, okay, so what is my problem? Missing a bracket to the argument list. So am I missing a bracket? So that means age in brackets. See, after doing this 1,001 times, still forget. But thank God for error messages. Okay, line 15. I don't get why this is not working. Yeah, that should work. Yes. Why does it say type of is not defined? Small letter. Yeah, so I was making a mistake with the O. I was putting capital instead of small letters. So when we type of all small letters, age, it would tell us the value of the data type. So let's say instead of age, I would say like, let me say something like, I give a value like let me just say string age. I need this to be a string. I want us to see the difference between a number. This will be the last thing we do. The difference between a number and a string. So now in this case, we would have our age as a string, but the first age on line 13 is a number. Second one is a string. And I need to now see to console.log both the string value and the number value so we can see what quotation marks, the difference quotation marks can do. So this was string age, right? And then we have string age. So, okay. AGE. So we have two values of age, 12 and a 12 with quotation marks. The first one is a number, but the second one is a string. So we need to, let's confirm what I'm just saying. Let's confirm what the console output would be. So both of them are 12, but the first 12 is a number and the second 12 is a string. So these are two different data types and would be interpreted differently and would have different ways of working with them as we continue manipulating strings, numbers, and different data types in JavaScript. The more we work with them, the more we would see the difference between different data types and how to work with them, and what we can do with strings, what we can do with numbers, what we can do with Boolean values. We will keep on seeing that, and anything we do in programming, I mean like anything, you have to understand how to work with variables and how to work with different data types. I think that's it for today's class. Do you have a question when it comes to the data types?
Oh, no, I understand.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Raphael, do you have a question?
Yes. It says console is not defined.
Console?
16. Yeah.
Did you write console.log?
Yes.
Okay, maybe share your screen, please. Line 16. Log type of, okay. So you did console. I need you to add one more bracket at the end, line number 18. Closing bracket. So try run that now.
Now it's saying 17.
17. So console is not, it's console, not console. You have to go between the S and the L. Console. Yes. Good now. Okay.
Yeah.
So try print out, try console.log the type of string age, str age. Let's see what type of data type it is. Let's see the data type for str age.
It's saying 12, then number 12.
So my question is, I'd like you to try and get the data type for str age. Do you remember how we did that? So when you do line, what we're trying to do is get the data type for age, right? So I'd like you to copy line 18 to line 20 and then just change up the variable name.
Oh, wait, no. Wait. Okay.
Then change the variable name. Instead of age, what do we have? str age. That's good. So let's run that. So now we have age as number, but str age is a string. Do you know why that is?
Because string, age, and age are different data types.
Yes. And what makes str age a string? Because it has quotation marks. Because it has quotation marks around it, that defines it as a string. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Any other question? Okay. Okay. I don't know if George is around. Is George around?
I'm not sure if he's there.
Yeah, because you think around. So I think it's duty of dismissing class today. So have a lovely week, guys.
All right.
Nice.
Thank you.
I'll keep checking WhatsApp.
Oh
I'll be
yeah.
sending stuff during
Okay.
the week. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.